Yesterday, I started teaching a class on mathematical proofs, and this is the first example I discussed in class to illustrate the fact that we need theorems and we need proofs of statements. And I think this statement, the integers contain a unique zero element, is a good example of why we need proofs, because a priori, like some student says, this is just common sense, or it's immediate that yes, there is a zero. After all, how do we define the integers? The integers are the numbers minus 3, minus 2, minus 1, 0, 1, 2, 3. So there it is. That's the only zero. There's no other zero element. So what does this even mean? In mathematics, a theorem is a statement that we can prove out of our initial axioms. So what we actually need to ask ourselves is, what are the axioms that define the integers? This is not how one defines a mathematical object, because this doesn't tell me anything about what properties this object defines, and this, of course, these dots are very ill-defined. So what I need to know first is, how are we going to define the integers out of axioms? And then, is this one of the axioms, that the fact that there's a unique zero element, or is there some other definition of zero in the axioms of the integers that tells me that this is not immediate from the axioms and there is something to be proved? The integers are usually defined using some sort of axioms like this. The integers is a set with two operations, addition and multiplication, such that those operations are commutative, associative, they satisfy the distributive laws, and then we define zero. And the zero element is defined by the defining property of zero. The defining property is that there is an element that we call zero, such that when we add it to any integer, we get that integer back. So this is the definition of zero, and in the axioms, very rarely, the definitions of the axioms that define the integers will say that zero is a unique element. That is something that we can prove out of the axioms, so we don't need to include it as an axiom. And now that we have a defining property of a zero element, we can prove that there is only one element in the entire integers that satisfy that property. How? We're going to assume that there are two such elements that are zero elements, so 0, 1 and 0, 2 satisfy that property, and we're going to show that they are actually the same element, and therefore there can only be one zero element. So suppose those have that property, and then 0, 1, I can use the zero property of 0, 2 such that whenever I add 0, 2 to any element, I get that element back. And now I can use the zero property of 0, 1, because 0, 1 plus any element, I will get that element back. And therefore, 0, 1 equals 0, 2, and that's what we wanted to prove, that there is always only one zero element. They're all the same element.